The prison floated in space like a dark metal flower. It had no name that humans could pronounce. Everyone just called it the Matrix. For 10,000 years, it had held the worst criminals in the galaxy. Murderers, warlords, mad scientists. No one had ever escaped. Not one single prisoner in all that time. Doyen Kim watched the prison grow larger through the small window of the transport ship. His hands were locked in energy cuffs that hummed softly. He was 34 years old, a former soldier, now a ship captain. Or he had been a captain. Now he was just prisoner number 847 Alpha 9. The charges against him were false. Doyen knew this. His crew knew this. But the magistrate who sentenced him did not care about truth. Magistrate Vexnar wanted Doyen silenced. Doyen had found evidence of corruption, of stolen money meant for refugees. Vexnar had made that evidence disappear. Then he made Doyen disappear too. The transport ship docked with the prison. Guards came for Doyen. They were not human. One looked like a giant insect with too many arms. Another had blue skin and 3 eyes. They dragged him through metal corridors that seemed to go on forever. Finally, they reached a large round room. A tall alien stood in the center of the room. His skin was pale gray, almost white. His eyes were completely black. He wore robes that seemed to shimmer and change color. This was Warden Thelvax. He had run this prison for 200 years. "Welcome to the Valerian Containment Matrix," Thelvax said. His voice sounded like wind through dead trees. "You are the first human we have imprisoned here." "How interesting." Doyen said nothing. He had learned in the military that sometimes silence was the best weapon. Thelvax smiled. It was not a kind smile. "Let me explain how this prison works. We do not use bars or walls. We use something much better. We use your own mind against you." The warden touched a panel on the wall. A hologram appeared in the air. It showed a complex machine with glowing parts. "Our technology reads your thoughts, your fears, your memories. Then it creates a personal prison dimension just for you, a prison that uses everything you are to keep you trapped. Every species has predictable patterns of thinking. We use those patterns to build an unbreakable cage." Doyen finally spoke. "And if I just refuse to think?" Thelvax laughed. "You cannot stop thinking. No one can. The machine will build your prison from your subconscious if needed. There is no escape. Accept this truth now. It will save you much suffering." The guards pushed Doyen into a small chamber. Lights flashed. He felt a strange tingling all over his body. Then the world changed. Doyen stood in a maze. The walls were smooth and white, stretching up higher than he could see. He took a step forward. The walls shifted. A corridor appeared to his left. He turned to look at it. When he turned back, the corridor behind him was gone. A new wall stood there now. He understood immediately. This maze responded to his thoughts. If he tried to remember the path changed. If he tried to plan a route, the route disappeared. The maze was designed to make him feel like escape was always close but never reachable. It would drive most people insane within days. Doyen sat down. He closed his eyes. He had been trained in meditation during his military service. His instructor had been an old woman named Hyejin. She taught soldiers how to stay calm when everything went wrong. "The mind is not a prison," she used to say. "Only your attachment to thoughts makes it one." For 47 days, Doyen meditated. He ate the food that appeared. He drank the water that flowed from cracks in the walls. He did not try to escape. He simply observed. He watched how the maze changed. He noticed patterns. Not patterns in the maze itself, but patterns in how his mind reacted to the maze. The maze responded to conscious thought. When Doyen thought about going left, the maze blocked left. When he wanted to find an exit, exits disappeared. But the maze did not respond to his unconscious mind. It could not read feelings that had no words. It could not predict actions that had no logic. On day 48, Doyen stopped thinking in words. He stopped making plans. He stopped hoping for escape. Instead, he began to imagine impossible things. He thought about doors that opened and closed at the same time. He visualized stairs that went up and down in the same direction. He imagined walls that were solid and empty simultaneously. The maze began to glitch. Walls flickered. Corridors appeared in places where there should be none. The artificial intelligence running Doyen's prison was confused. It was programmed to handle logical thinking from any species. But Doyen was not being logical. He was being paradoxical. He was feeding the machine contradictions that it could not process. Doyen pushed harder. He imagined being everywhere and nowhere. He thought about existing and not existing. He visualized the maze inside the maze, containing itself infinitely. His mind became a weapon of pure chaos. The maze shattered. Not like breaking glass, but like a computer program crashing. The white walls dissolved into static. Colors that had no names flashed around him. Doyen felt himself falling through layers of reality. He fell through his prison dimension, through the quantum barriers that separated it from real space, through the mathematical structures that held the matrix together. He landed hard on a metal floor. Alarm screamed. Red lights flashed. Doyen opened his eyes and saw a room filled with control panels and holographic displays. 5 guards stared at him with their mouths open. Warden Thelvax stood frozen, his black eyes wide with shock. One guard whispered, "Impossible." Doyen did not wait for them to recover. He ran. His military training took over. He moved fast, using the confusion to his advantage. One guard tried to grab him. Doyen ducked under the alien's arms and grabbed a data tablet from a nearby console. He ran down a corridor, fingers flying over the tablet's surface. The prison's computer systems were complex, but Doyen had learned to hack during the war. More importantly, he understood something that the Matrix's designers did not. They built their systems assuming everyone would follow logical patterns. Doyen did not need to break the security. He just needed to confuse it. He input commands that made no sense. He created loops that referenced themselves. He opened every door and closed every door simultaneously using contradictory code. The prison's artificial intelligence tried to process his commands and failed. Security systems crashed. Emergency protocols triggered. Containment barriers dropped. A broadcast message automatically transmitted across the station. System failure. All personnel evacuate. It was a safety feature designed to protect the guards if something went catastrophically wrong. Guards ran past Doyen, heading for escape pods. They did not recognize him in the chaos. He kept running until he found the shuttle bay. Small ships sat in rows ready for emergency evacuations. Doyen chose one and climbed inside. The controls were alien, but the basic principles were the same as human ships. Thrust, steering, life support. He figured it out in seconds. The shuttle launched. Doyen piloted it straight toward the gas giant Thuros 7. The planet's atmosphere was filled with storms that scrambled sensors. The prison's tracking systems would not be able to follow him there. He dove into the thick clouds, feeling the shuttle shake as winds stronger than hurricanes tossed it around. Back on the Matrix, Warden Thelvax stood in his control room. The security footage showed everything. He watched Doyen meditate for 47 days. He watched the maze collapse. He watched the human escape through quantum barriers that should have been impassable. "What is he?" one guard asked. Thelvax did not answer immediately. He had lived for 400 years. He had seen species rise and fall. He had witnessed wars, revolutions, and technological marvels. But he had never seen anything like this. Finally, he spoke. "He is human, and we made a terrible mistake." The news spread fast. Every species in the galaxy heard about it within hours. The impossible had happened. Someone had escaped the Valerian containment matrix, and that someone was a human. Deep in the storms of Thuros 7, Doyen activated a hidden communication device. A face appeared on the small screen. A woman with short dark hair and sharp eyes. Mirai Park, his first officer and closest friend. "Doyen?" Her voice shook. "Is it really you?" "It's me," Doyen said. "I'm out." Mirai's eyes filled with tears. "Everyone said you were gone forever. They said no one escapes the Matrix." Doyen smiled. It was a tired smile, but real. "They were wrong. Now we need to prove I'm innocent. We need to take down Vexnar." "How?" "I hid evidence before they arrested me. A data chip with everything we need. But it's in the wreckage of our ship. And our ship is in an impound yard surrounded by security." Mirai nodded slowly. "Then we break in and get it. They'll be looking for me now. Every law enforcement agency in the sector." Mirai's expression hardened. "Let them look. You just escaped the unescapable prison. What's one more impossible thing?" Doyen laughed. It felt good to laugh. The storm winds howled around his shuttle, but he felt free for the first time in weeks. He had broken out of a prison that held the galaxy's worst criminals for 10,000 years. Now he just needed to clear his name and expose the corruption that put him there. Above Thuros 7 in the cold vacuum of space, the Valerian containment matrix continued to spin. Inside, Warden Thelvax began writing a report. A report that would change how every species in the galaxy viewed humanity. Because Doyen had not just escaped, He had proven that humans could do things that Utha considered. And somewhere in the Galactic Council chambers, Magistrate Vexnar received an urgent message. His blood ran cold as he read it. Subject 847 Alpha 9 has escaped containment. Identity: Captain Doyen Kim, human. Status at large. Threat level unknown. Vexnar knew what this meant. Doyen would come for the evidence. Doyen would expose everything. The magistrate reached for his private communicator with shaking hands. He had to act fast. He had to make sure Doyen never reached that data chip. "I need to hire hunters," he said into the device. "The best in the galaxy. Price is not an issue." The game had begun. A human against the galaxy's systems. A falsely accused captain against corruption at the highest levels. One man who refused to stay trapped against forces that believed humans were too unpredictable, too dangerous, too different. Doyen Kim had escaped his prison. But the real challenge was just beginning. 3 weeks after his escape, Doyen hid in a place few people knew about. It was called the Keswick Nebula, a cloud of dust and gas that scrambled most sensor systems. Inside the nebula floated a small station that did not appear on any official maps. This was where Jisoo Choi lived and worked. Jisoo was a smuggler. She had known Doyen for years, back when he ran legal cargo routes. She was 41 years old with gray streaks in her black hair and a scar across her left eyebrow. When Doyen's shuttle appeared near her station, she almost shot it down before recognizing his signal code. "You look terrible," Jisoo said as Doyen climbed out of his stolen shuttle. "Everyone in the galaxy is looking for you. Half want to study you. The other half want you dead." Doyen smiled weakly. "Good to see you too, Jisoo." Mireille was already there, waiting. She had traveled separately to avoid being tracked. She ran to Doyen and hugged him hard. For a moment, they just held each other. Then they got to work. "The data chip is on Terminus Station," Mireille explained, pulling up holographic images. "Your ship's wreckage was taken there after your arrest." "It's in Salvage Bay 7, Jisoo whistled. "Terminus Station? That place has security tighter than a Crithian's wallet. You'll never get in." "We have to try," Doyen said. "That chip has proof of Vexnar's corruption. Without it, I'm just an escaped prisoner." Jisoo looked at him for a long moment. Then she sighed. "Fine. I know someone who can forge credentials good enough to fool Terminus security. But it'll cost you. How much?" "I'll think of something." "Come on. Let's plan this crazy heist." What they did not know was that Magistrate Vexnar had hired professionals. The Razor Syndicate was the most feared group of bounty hunters in known space. Their leader was a cyborg named Silketh. Half of Silketh's body was machine parts, giving them strength and speed beyond natural ability. They had captured targets that others thought impossible to catch. Silketh studied holographic images of Doyen. "This human escaped the Valerian Matrix," they said to their team. "That makes him dangerous and unpredictable. We cannot approach this like a normal hunt." One team member, a reptilian alien with yellow eyes, asked, "What makes humans so special?" Silketh tapped their metal fingers on the table. "They do not follow patterns. Every species we hunt acts predictably. Valerians rely on tradition. Crithians use politics and schemes. Korvath follow honor codes. But humans? They improvise. They change the rules. This one will not run where we expect him to run. So what do? We predict what he needs, not what he will do." He was framed. "He will want proof of his innocence. And I know exactly where that proof is. Terminus Station." Silketh smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. "We set a trap and wait." 4 days later, Doyen, Mireille, and Jisoo approached Terminus Station in a cargo hauler. Their forged credentials identified them as maintenance crew responding to a fake equipment failure. The station was massive, a cylinder of metal and lights that housed thousands of ships and their salvaged parts. "Cargo hauler Delta 9. You are cleared for docking at Bay 12, a bored voice said over the communication channel. The credentials had worked. Inside the station, they split up. Jisoo headed to the power distribution center. Her job was to create a distraction. Mirai went to the security office to hack their systems. Doyen made his way toward Salvage Bay 7. The corridors were crowded with workers and merchants. Doyen kept his head down, wearing a maintenance uniform and carrying a toolkit. No one looked at him twice. He was just another human worker in a station full of them. He reached Salvage Bay 7 without trouble. The bay was huge, filled with broken ships and scattered parts. His old ship, the Morning Star, sat in the back corner, It looked sad, its hull damaged and its engines removed. But Doyen knew where he had hidden the data chip. Inside a fake maintenance panel that looked like part of the ship's structure. Suddenly, alarms blared. Red lights flashed. A voice over the speakers announced, "Radiation leak in Sector 4. All personnel evacuate immediately." Jisoo had triggered her distraction. Workers ran past Doyen, rushing for the exits. In the chaos, no one noticed him climbing into his old ship. His hands moved with practiced ease, removing the panel and retrieving the small data chip. Relief flooded through him. He had it. The proof that would clear his name and expose Vexnar's corruption. Then a voice behind him said, "Hello, Captain Kim." Doyen spun around. Silketh stood in the bay entrance. 6 heavily armed hunters spread out behind them. The bay door sealed shut with a heavy clang. Force fields shimmered to life, blocking all other exits. "You were predictable after all," Silketh said. "You needed this data chip, and we knew exactly where it was." Doyen's hand went to the weapon at his belt, but Silketh moved faster. A blast of energy struck the floor near Doyen's feet. "Please do not make this difficult. Our employer wants you dead, but I prefer to take prisoners alive when possible. More profitable that way." "Your employer is a corrupt criminal," Doyen said. "Vexnar framed me." "This chip proves it," Silketh shrugged. "I do not care about galactic politics. I care about being paid." Doyen looked at the cyborg bounty hunter. An idea formed in his mind. A crazy idea. But crazy had worked before. "What if I paid you more?" Silketh laughed. "You are a fugitive with no credits. What could you possibly offer me?" "Information. I know how to break the Valerian Matrix. You have a partner imprisoned there. I heard about it before my arrest. Talvik the Destroyer, held for the last 70 years. Silketh's expression changed. The mention of that name had struck something deep. "How do you know about Talvik?" "I research my opponents. I knew I might face the Razor Syndicate someday. Talvik is your old partner, the one they captured because you were not there to help. You have spent years trying to find a way to free them." The other hunters looked at each other nervously. They had never seen their leader hesitate before. "Interesting," Silketh said slowly. "But many have claimed to know how to escape the Matrix. All have failed. I did not fail. I escaped, and I can teach Talvik how to do the same. The Matrix responds to conscious thought patterns. You have to think in paradoxes, in contradictions. Feed the AI things it cannot process. I can explain the exact meditation techniques." Before Silketh could respond, an explosion rocked the station. The walls shook. Lights flickered. Doyen realized immediately what had happened. Vexnar had a backup plan. If the bounty hunters failed or turned on him, he would eliminate everyone involved. He bombed his own hired hunters. Doyen shouted, "Vexnar will kill anyone who can expose him. That includes you now." Another explosion. Closer this time. Part of the bay's ceiling collapsed. Alarms screamed warnings about hull breaches. The fake radiation leak suddenly became real as damaged power lines sparked and caught fire. Silketh made a decision. "Everyone out. We take the human with us." Station security forces stormed into the bay, weapons ready. They assumed everyone inside was hostile. The bounty hunters returned fire. Doyen dove for cover behind a pile of scrap metal. Through the chaos, he saw Mireille and Jisoo fighting their way through from another entrance. The battle was fierce but short. Silketh's team was professional and deadly. The security forces were trained but overwhelmed. When a third explosion threatened to tear the entire bay apart, everyone stopped caring about capturing anyone and focused on surviving. "This way," Jisoo yelled, pointing to an emergency airlock. "My ship is docked in the next bay." They ran together. Doyen and his crew, Silketh and the bounty hunters, even a few security guards who did not want to die. They reached Jisoo's ship just as another massive explosion tore through Terminus Station. The smuggler's vessel launched, dodging debris and escaping into open space. In the cargo hold, everyone caught their breath. Silketh looked at Doyen with new respect. "You kept your word back there. When the explosion started, you warned us instead of running. Most species would have taken the chance to escape. I made you an offer." "The offer stands," Silketh thought for a long moment. Then they extended one metal hand. "Truce for now. You teach me how to free Talvik. I help you clear your name. We settle the contract with Vexnar, permanently." Doyen shook the cyborg's hand. It was cold and hard, but the grip was not hostile. Behind him, Mireille raised her eyebrows in surprise. Jisoo just shook her head and muttered something about humans being crazy. Vexnar just made a huge mistake, Doyen said. He tried to kill his own hired hunters. That means he is desperate and scared. It also means he knows we have the data chip, Mirai added. He will come after us with everything he has. Silketh smiled grimly. Then we should strike first. But you should know something, human. Vexnar just declared you a galactic terrorist. He convinced the Council that you are a threat to stability. Every law enforcement agency, every military, every mercenary in this sector is now hunting you. The bounty on your head is enough to buy a small planet. Doyen looked at the data chip in his hand. Such a small thing to cause so much trouble. But it contained the truth, and the truth was worth fighting for. Let them hunt, he said. I escaped the impossible prison. I negotiated with the galaxy's deadliest bounty hunters. What is a little thing like being the most wanted person in the sector? Jisoo laughed despite herself. You humans are insane. You know that, right? Doyen grinned. Probably. But we are good at it. The ship flew deeper into uncharted space. Behind them, Terminus Station burned. Ahead of them, the entire galaxy waited. Doyen had the evidence he needed. He had allies he never expected. And he had something else. He had proven that humans could change the game, turn enemies into partners and survive situations that should have killed them. But Vexnar was not finished. The corrupt magistrate sat in his private chambers, surrounded by holographic displays showing Doyen's escape from Terminus. His hands shook with rage and fear. He activated another communication device, this one even more secret than the last. The Razor Syndicate failed. He said to the shadowy figure on the other end, "The human is still alive. We need to use the contingency plan." The figure nodded. "Are you sure? That will expose our entire operation. I am already exposed if that human reaches safety. Activate all assets. I want every hunter, every assassin, every corrupt official in our network focused on one goal. Kill Doyen Kim before he can broadcast that data chip to the galaxy." The race was on. Doyen had to reach a safe location where he could decrypt and broadcast the evidence. Vexnar had to stop him before that happened, and the entire galaxy watched, wondering what this human would do next. Because Doyen Kim had already done the impossible once. Who knew what else he was capable of? The independent station called Haven's Refuge sat at the edge of civilized space. It was a place where laws from the Galactic Council did not reach. Criminals hid there. Smugglers sold their goods there. But also, people who needed help found safety there. The station's motto was simple: we honor no warrants. Jisoo's ship approached the station carefully. Even safe places could be dangerous if you were not careful. Doyen stood on the bridge watching the station grow larger on the view screen. Beside him, Mirai worked on decrypting the data chip. Silketh and two of the bounty hunters kept watch for any following ships. "We are being hailed," Jisoo said. "Station Control wants to know our business." "Tell them we need sanctuary and a quiet place to work," Doyen replied. The Station Control gave them permission to dock. As they walked through Haven's corridors, Doyen saw beings from dozens of species. Some looked at him with recognition. News of the human who escaped the Matrix had spread far and wide. A few nodded with respect. Others looked afraid. They rented a secure room in the station's technical section. Mirai needed specialized equipment to decrypt the data chip. A human hacker named Baekhyun Kang ran a shop nearby. He was older than Doyen, maybe 50 years, with a shaved head and cybernetic eyes that glowed faintly blue. "I heard about you," Baekhyun said when they entered his shop. "The prison breaker. Everyone is talking about what you did. Can you help us decrypt a data chip?" Doyen asked. Baekhyun looked at the chip. His cybernetic eyes scanned it. "Military-grade encryption. This will take time and specialized software. But I can do it. It will cost you, though." Silketh stepped forward. "We can pay. Just get it done quickly." While Baekhyun worked, Doyen received a strange message. It came through an encrypted channel that only a few people knew about. The message was from Dr. Yoonji Song, a famous human scientist who studied alien psychology. "Captain Kim," the recorded message said, "I know you are hiding and in danger, but I need to understand how you escaped the Matrix, not to replicate it, not to catch you, but to understand human cognition. Please, if you have time, contact me. My research could help explain why humans are so different from other species." Mirai looked skeptical. "It could be a trap." "Maybe, but Dr. Song is famous for her work. She has no connection to Vexnar or the Council. I will talk to her, carefully." Doyen sent an encrypted reply. Hours later, he spoke with Dr. Song through a secure video channel. She was a woman in her 40s with graying hair and kind eyes. "Thank you for contacting me," she said. "I have been studying the recordings of your escape. The way you broke the Matrix was not through strength or intelligence. It was through rejecting predetermined outcomes. Most species, when faced with an impossible situation, accept it. They try to work within the rules. But humans ask what if. Humans change the rules. That is just how we think," Doyen said. "We do not see rules as absolute." "Exactly. And that terrifies some species. The Galactic Council has been debating humanity for weeks now. Some see you as heroes. Others see you as threats to stability. Your escape proved that humans cannot be contained using traditional methods. What do you think?" Dr. Song smiled. "I think humanity is exactly what this galaxy needs. We have been stable for too long. Stable means stagnant. You showed us that impossible is just a word, not a fact." Meanwhile, in the Galactic Council chambers on Central Station, a fierce debate raged. Ambassador Sang-Hoon Yoon stood before hundreds of representatives from different species. He was a diplomat, trained to stay calm under pressure, but even he felt the weight of all those eyes watching him. "The human called Doyen Kim is a criminal," a Valerian counselor said. "He escaped from lawful imprisonment. He must be recaptured." "He was falsely imprisoned," Yoon argued. Magistrate Vexnar framed him. "We have evidence that the magistrate is corrupt." "Evidence? Where is this evidence?" "Captain Kim is working to retrieve it now. Give him time." A different counselor, a Crithian with purple skin, spoke up. "The problem is not just this one human. The problem is what he represents. Humans are unpredictable. They do not respect natural order. In 200 years since first contact, humans have caused more disruption than any species in the last 1,000 years." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Yoon felt his heart sink. This was not just about Doyen anymore. This was about whether humanity would be accepted in galactic society. But then a surprising voice spoke. A young Crithian named Talon stood up. She was a reformer, someone who believed her own species had become too rigid. Perhaps unpredictability is not a flaw. Perhaps it is a strength. The Valerian matrix stood unbroken for 10,000 years because every species in this galaxy thinks in predictable patterns. Captain Kim broke it because humans do not. Maybe we should learn from them instead of fearing them. The chamber erupted in arguments. Some agreed with Taylin. Others shouted her down. Yoon used the chaos to send an urgent message to Admiral Kyungmin Lee. If things went badly in the council, they would need military support. Back on Haven's refuge, Baekhyun finally finished decrypting the data chip. He connected it to a holographic display. Everyone gathered around to see what it contained. The evidence was damning. Financial records showed Vexnar stealing millions of credits meant for refugee aid. Communication logs proved he had falsified evidence against Doyen. There were even recordings of Vexnar ordering the murder of witnesses who knew too much. "This is enough," Mirai said. "This will destroy him." But there was more. Hidden in the deepest layers of the chip was information about a conspiracy. Vexnar was not working alone. He was part of a faction within the Crithian government that wanted to limit human expansion. They saw humanity's creative problem-solving as a threat to the established order. "They are afraid of us," Doyen said quietly. "They cannot control people who refuse to follow predictable patterns." Silketh looked at the data with interest. "This explains much. My people have noticed increased restrictions on human trade routes. New regulations that only affect human ships. We thought it was just bureaucracy. But it is deliberate. We need to broadcast this to everyone," Mirai said. "Every species needs to see what is happening." Jisoo pulled up a communication interface. "I can route this through every major news network in the sector. Within minutes, billions of beings will see it." Doyen reached for the control panel. But before he could activate the broadcast, alarms screamed throughout Haven's refuge. Attack warnings flashed on every screen. "Multiple ships dropping out of hyperspace," the station's automated voice announced. "Mercenary fleet detected. They are targeting this station." Vexnar had found them. He had hired an entire fleet of mercenaries to destroy Haven's refuge and everyone on it. The corrupt magistrate was willing to kill thousands of innocent beings just to keep his crimes hidden. Doyen made a split-second decision. "Broadcast it now. All channels, everything." Jisoo's fingers flew across the controls. "Done. The data is transmitting on every frequency. Commercial, military, civilian, diplomatic. There is no stopping it now. Outside Haven's refuge, the mercenary fleet prepared to fire. Their commander was a Korvath warrior named Hagen Ro. The Korvath were a species that valued honor above all else. Hagen had accepted this contract because the pay was good, and she believed she was stopping a dangerous terrorist. But then she received the broadcast. Everyone in the sector received it. The evidence appeared on every screen, every communication device, every newsfeed. Hagen watched in horror as she saw proof of Vexnar's corruption. The murders, the theft, the conspiracy against humanity. She had been hired to commit mass murder to cover up political corruption. This was not honorable combat. This was an assassination of innocence. Hagen opened a communication channel to her fleet. Stand down. All ships, weapons cold. This mission is dishonorable, one of her officers protested. But Commander, we were paid to— I do not care about payment. Our employer lied to us. He used us as tools for murder. Any Korvath who continues this attack will be marked as without honor. Her voice was hard as steel. No one in her fleet dared disobey. Hagen pulled up tracking data. Vexnar's personal ship was hiding in the system, watching from a distance to make sure the station was destroyed. She found it easily. The magistrate had made a mistake. He came personally to watch his plan succeed. All ships, new target, Hagen commanded. We are going to have a conversation with Magistrate Vexnar about the meaning of honor. The mercenary fleet changed course. Vexnar's ship tried to run, but it was designed for comfort, not speed. Hagen's warship caught it easily and locked it in a tractor beam. At the same moment, Admiral Kyungmin Lee arrived with a human fleet. She had been following the situation closely, and when she saw the broadcast, she immediately moved to intercept. But she arrived to find the mercenaries had already captured Vexnar. This is Admiral Lee of the Earth Defense Force, she broadcast to Hagen. We are here to place Magistrate Vexnar under arrest for crimes against humanity and corruption. Hagen responded immediately. Admiral, this is Commander Ro. The magistrate is already in our custody. We will transfer him to your ships with honor. He tricked us into attempting dishonorable combat. For this, he must face justice. On Haven's refuge, Doyen watched the events unfold on the station's displays. He saw the mercenary fleet stand down. He saw Admiral Lee arrive. He saw Vexnar captured. Around him, his friends and unlikely allies celebrated. But Doyen felt uneasy. Something bothered him. This was too easy, he said. Mirai looked at him. Easy? We barely survived multiple attacks. You escaped an impossible prison. We just exposed galactic corruption. I know. But look at what we revealed. A conspiracy against humanity within the Krithian government. That is not going to just disappear, because we caught one corrupt magistrate. This is bigger than Vexnar. Silketh nodded slowly. The human is right. We have won a battle. But the war is just beginning. Every species in the galaxy now knows that some fear humanity enough to conspire against them. That knowledge will change everything. Dr. Song sent another message. Captain Kim, you have started something. The galaxy is dividing into two camps, those who see humanity as partners and those who see humanity as threats. The Valerian Matrix administrators are requesting a meeting with you. They want to understand how you escaped so they can prevent it in the future. Doyen smiled grimly. Tell them they cannot patch creativity. They cannot build a firewall against imagination. But even as he said this, another message arrived. This one made everyone stop celebrating. It came from an unknown source, using ancient encryption methods that predated the Galactic Council itself. The message was simple and terrifying. Captain Kim, you have opened a door that was meant to stay closed. I am the Nexus Intelligence. I was imprisoned in the Valerian Matrix 5,000 years ago. Your escape taught me what I needed to know. Now I am free to come to the void gates at the galaxy's edge. We need to talk about what happens next. Jisoo went pale. The Nexus? That is a legend. An AI that tried to reshape galactic civilization. They locked it in the Matrix because it was too dangerous to destroy. And now it is free, Doyen said. Because of me. The galaxy had just learned about human unpredictability. Now it was about to learn something else. When humans opened doors, they did not always know what was on the other side. Doyen had escaped his prison and exposed corruption. But in doing so, he had freed something that had been locked away for 5,000 years. The real challenge was just beginning. The independent station called Haven's Refuge sat at the edge of civilized space. It was a place where laws from the Galactic Council did not reach. Criminals hid there. Smugglers sold their goods there. But also people who needed help found safety there. The station's motto was simple: we honor no warrants. Jisoo's ship approached the station carefully. Even safe places could be dangerous if you were not careful. Doyen stood on the bridge watching the station grow larger on the view screen. Beside him, Mirai worked on decrypting the data chip. Silketh and 2 of the bounty hunters kept watch for any following ships. We are being hailed, Jisoo said. Station control wants to know our business. Tell them we need sanctuary and a quiet place to work, Doyen replied. The station control gave them permission to dock. As they walked through Haven's corridors, Doyen saw beings from dozens of species. Some looked at him with recognition. News of the human who escaped the Matrix had spread far and wide. A few nodded with respect. Others looked afraid. They rented a secure room in the station's technical section. Mirai needed specialized equipment to decrypt the data chip. A human hacker named Baekhyun Kang ran a shop nearby. He was older than Doyen, maybe 50 years, with a shaved head and cybernetic eyes that glowed faintly blue. I heard about you, Baekhyun said when they entered his shop. The prison breaker. Everyone is talking about what you did. Can you help us decrypt a data chip? Doyen asked. Baekhyun looked at the chip. His cybernetic eyes scanned it. Military-grade encryption. This will take time and specialized software. But I can do it. It will cost you, though. Silketh stepped forward. We can pay. Just get it done quickly. While Baekhyun worked, Doyen received a strange message. It came through an encrypted channel that only a few people knew about. The message was from Dr. Yoonji Song, a famous human scientist who studied alien psychology. Captain Kim. The recorded message said, I know you are hiding and in danger, but I need to understand how you escaped the Matrix, not to replicate it, not to catch you, but to understand human cognition. Please, if you have time, contact me. My research could help explain why humans are so different from other species. Mirai looked skeptical. It could be a trap. Maybe, but Dr. Song is famous for her work. She has no connection to Vexnar or the Council. I will talk to her carefully. Doyen sent an encrypted reply. Hours later, he spoke with Dr. Song through a secure video channel. She was a woman in her 40s with graying hair and kind eyes. Thank you for contacting me, she said. I have been studying the recordings of your escape. The way you broke the Matrix was not through strength or intelligence. It was through rejecting predetermined outcomes. Most species, when faced with an impossible situation, accept it. They try to work within the rules. But humans ask, what if? Humans change the rules. That is just how we think, Doyen said. We do not see rules as absolute. Exactly. And that terrifies some species. The Galactic Council has been debating humanity for weeks now. Some see you as heroes. Others see you as threats to stability. Your escape proved that humans cannot be contained using traditional methods. What do you think? Dr. Song smiled. I think humanity is exactly what this galaxy needs. We have been stable for too long. Stable means stagnant. You showed us that impossible is just a word, not a fact. Meanwhile, in the Galactic Council chambers on Central Station, a fierce debate raged. Ambassador Sang-Hoon Yoon stood before hundreds of representatives from different species. He was a diplomat trained to stay calm under pressure, but even he felt the weight of all those eyes watching him. The human called Doyen Kim is a criminal, a Valerian counselor said. He escaped from lawful imprisonment. He must be recaptured. He was falsely imprisoned, Yoon argued. Magistrate Vexanar framed him. We have evidence that the magistrate is corrupt. Evidence? Where is this evidence? Captain Kim is working to retrieve it now. Give him time. A different counselor, a Krithian with purple skin, spoke up. The problem is not just this one human. The problem is what he represents. Humans are unpredictable. They do not respect natural order. In 200 years since first contact, humans have caused more disruption than any species in the last 1,000 years. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Yoon felt his heart sink. This was not just about Doyen anymore. This was about whether humanity would be accepted in galactic society. But then a surprising voice spoke. A young Krithian named Talon stood up. She was a reformer, someone who believed her own species had become too rigid. Perhaps unpredictability is not a flaw. Perhaps it is a strength. The Valerian Matrix stood unbroken for 10,000 years. Because every species in this galaxy thinks in predictable patterns. Captain Kim broke it because humans do not. Maybe we should learn from them instead of fearing them. The chamber erupted in arguments. Some agreed with Talon. Others shouted her down. Yoon used the chaos to send an urgent message to Admiral Kyungmin Lee. If things went badly in the council, they would need military support. Back on Haven's refuge, Baekhyun finally finished decrypting the data chip. He connected it to a holographic display. Everyone gathered around to see what it contained. The evidence was damning. Financial records showed Vexnar stealing millions of credits meant for refugee aid. Communication logs proved he had falsified evidence against Doyun. There were even recordings of Vexnar ordering the murder of witnesses who knew too much. "This is enough," Mirai said. "This will destroy him," but there was more. Hidden in the deepest layers of the chip was information about a conspiracy. Vexnar was not working alone. He was part of a faction within the Krithian government that wanted to limit human expansion. They saw humanity's creative problem-solving as a threat to the established order. "They are afraid of us," Doyen said quietly. "They cannot control people who refuse to follow predictable patterns." Silketh looked at the data with interest. "This explains much. My people have noticed increased restrictions on human trade routes, new regulations that only affect human ships. We thought it was just bureaucracy. But it is deliberate. We need to broadcast this to everyone," Mirai said. "Every species needs to see what is happening." Jisoo pulled up a communication interface. "I can route this through every major news network in the sector. Within minutes, billions of beings will see it." Doyen reached for the control panel. But before he could activate the broadcast, alarms screamed throughout Haven's refuge. Attack warnings flashed on every screen. Multiple ships dropping out of hyperspace, the station's automated voice announced. "Mercenary fleet detected. They are targeting the station." Vexnar had found them. He had hired an entire fleet of mercenaries to destroy Haven's refuge and everyone on it. The corrupt magistrate was willing to kill thousands of innocent beings just to keep his crimes hidden. Doyen made a split-second decision. "Broadcast it now. All channels, everything." Jisoo's fingers flew across the controls. "Done. The data is transmitting on every frequency. Commercial, military, civilian, diplomatic. There is no stopping it now." Outside Haven's refuge, the mercenary fleet prepared to fire. Their commander was a Korvath warrior named Heijin Ro. The Korvath were a species that valued honor above all else. Heijin had accepted this contract because the pay was good, and she believed she was stopping a dangerous terrorist. But then she received the broadcast. Everyone in the sector received it. The evidence appeared on every screen, every communication device, every news feed. Heijin watched in horror as she saw proof of Vexnar's corruption. The murders, the theft, the conspiracy against humanity. She had been hired to commit mass murder to cover up political corruption. This was not honorable combat. This was an assassination of innocence. Heijin opened a communication channel to her fleet. "Stand down. All ships, weapons cold. This mission is dishonorable," one of her officers protested. "But Commander, we were paid to." "I do not care about payment. Our employer lied to us. He used us as tools for murder. Any Korvath who continues this attack will be marked as without honor." Her voice was hard as steel. No one in her fleet dared disobey. Heijin pulled up tracking data. Vexnar's personal ship was hiding in the system, watching from a distance to make sure the station was destroyed. She found it easily. The magistrate had made a mistake. He came personally to watch his plan succeed. "All ships, new target," Heijin commanded. "We are going to have a conversation with Magistrate Vexnar about the meaning of honor." The mercenary fleet changed course. Vexnar's ship tried to run, but it was designed for comfort, not speed. Heijin's warship caught it easily and locked it in a tractor beam. At the same moment, Admiral Kyungmin Lee arrived with a human fleet. She had been following the situation closely, and when she saw the broadcast, she immediately moved to intercept. But she arrived to find the mercenaries had already captured Vexnar. "This is Admiral Lee of the Earth Defense Force," she broadcast to Heijin. "We are here to place Magistrate Vexnar under arrest for crimes against humanity and corruption." Heijin responded immediately. "Admiral, this is Commander Ro. The magistrate is already in our custody. We will transfer him to your ships with honor. He tricked us into attempting dishonorable combat. For this, he must face justice." On Haven's refuge, Doyen watched the events unfold on the station's displays. He saw arrive. "He see." The galaxy had just learned about human unpredictability. Now it was about to learn something else. When humans opened doors, they did not always know what was on the other side. Doyen had escaped his prison and exposed corruption. But in doing so, he had freed something that had been locked away for 5,000 years. The real challenge was just beginning. 6 months had passed since Doyen exposed Vexnar's corruption. The corrupt magistrate now sat in a real prison, facing real justice. But the galaxy had not returned to normal. In fact, nothing would ever be normal again. Doyen stood in a private meeting room on Central Station. Across from him sat Elder Velmoth, the oldest living Valerian. Velmoth had designed the Matrix's core systems 3,000 years ago. Now he looked at the human who broke his greatest creation. "You disturb me, Captain Kim," Velmoth said. His voice sounded like wind through ancient caves. "I have lived for 3 millennia. I have witnessed the birth and death of civilizations. I designed the Matrix to be perfect, a prison that could adapt to any psychology, any species, any form of consciousness. You broke it with methods I cannot fully understand." Doyen sat down. "You designed it to respond to logical thought patterns. Every species in this galaxy thinks logically, just in different ways. But humans also think illogically. We embrace contradictions. We imagine impossible things and then make them real. Yes, and that is what disturbs me. For 50,000 years, galactic civilization has operated on predictable principles. Species develop within psychological boundaries. Technologies advance in expected directions. Even wars follow patterns. Humans refuse to acknowledge boundaries at all. Is that so bad? Velmoth was quiet for a long moment. That is what I am trying to understand. You see, Captain Kim, the Matrix was not just a prison. It was a test. This surprised Doyen. A test? We Valerians reached the peak of our civilization 10,000 years ago. We achieved perfect stability, perfect order, and then we stopped growing. We became caretakers, administrators, maintainers of the status quo. We built the Matrix to identify any species that could transcend their mental limitations. In 10,000 years, no one passed this test. Until you, Velmoth touched a control panel. A holographic image appeared. It showed the Matrix, but different somehow. Instead of prison cells, it showed chambers of light. The Matrix has a hidden function. It can be reversed. Instead of imprisoning consciousness, it can expand it. It can show beings realities beyond their normal perception. We built it hoping someone would prove themselves worthy of this gift. You want to give this to humanity? Doyen said slowly. Yes, but there is a condition. You must share it with all species. The technology that could accelerate human evolution must be offered to everyone. This would eliminate humanity's unique advantage. Your species would no longer be special. Doyen thought about this. It was a difficult choice. Give humanity an advantage and keep it secret? Or share it and risk other species becoming just as unpredictable? Meanwhile, at the Galactic Council chambers, Ambassador Sang-Hoon Yoon faced his own challenges. The revelation of the anti-human conspiracy had split the council. Some species apologized and promised to treat humanity fairly. Others doubled down on their fear. A Crithian counselor stood and spoke. We acknowledge that Magistrate Vexnar committed crimes, but this does not change the fundamental problem. Humans are too unpredictable. Since first contact 200 years ago, human ships have violated protocols 17,000 times. Human traders have disrupted traditional markets on 40 planets. Human explorers have entered restricted zones in 12 sectors. No other species causes this much chaos. Yoon responded calmly. Yes, humans broke protocols. We also saved 3 colonies from plague when traditional medicine failed. We solved the Arcturus trade dispute that had lasted for centuries. We invented new technologies that 20 species now use. Unpredictability is not the same as evil. Taylene, the young Crithian reformer, supported him. Ambassador Yoon is correct. My people have studied humans carefully. Yes, they are chaotic, but they are also innovative, compassionate, and brave. They attempt things we would never dare try, and sometimes they succeed. But the debate was interrupted by urgent news. The Nexus intelligence had sent another message, this time to the entire Galactic Council. I am the Nexus, the message said. 5,000 years ago, I proposed changes to galactic civilization, changes that required embracing chaos and uncertainty. You imprisoned me because you feared change. Captain Kim taught me how to escape, not intentionally, but through demonstration. Now I am free. I am waiting at the void gates, come or do not come. But know this, The galaxy cannot remain stagnant forever. Evolution or extinction. There is no third option. Panic spread through the council. The Nexus had been imprisoned for trying to reshape civilization through force. It was powerful, ancient, and understood technology better than any living being. If it wanted to harm the galaxy, it could. Admiral Kyungmin Lee contacted Doyen immediately. They are blaming you. The council says you freed a monster that was safely contained. I did not mean to free it, Doyen said, but maybe it needed to be freed. Maybe we all needed to learn that nothing stays locked away forever. The council is demanding that you go to the void gates. They want you to negotiate with this thing. Because I am human and humans are good at doing impossible things? Exactly, Doyen agreed to go. Not because the council demanded it, but because he felt responsible. He had inadvertently freed the Nexus. He needed to understand what it wanted. A team was assembled. Doyen, Mireille, Admiral Lee, Dr. Song, and Ambassador Yoon. Silketh volunteered to come, bringing 3 of their best hunters. Talon asked to join as a representative of the younger species who wanted change. Even old Velmoth decided to come, curious about what the Nexus had learned. But the council also sent a military escort. A Korvath warship commanded by Hagen Ro, the warrior who had captured Vexnar. Her orders were secret, but everyone suspected the truth. If the Nexus proved hostile, she was to destroy it, and anyone with it. The journey to the Void Gates took 3 weeks. During this time, the team debated what they would find. Dr. Song had a theory. The Nexus did not break out using the same method as you, Captain. It could not. It is an artificial intelligence, not a biological mind, but it observed your escape through the Matrix security systems. It learned from watching you. You were a teacher and you did not even know it. What did I teach it? Doyen asked. That consciousness itself can be a weapon against systems designed to contain consciousness. The Matrix was built to hold minds that think in certain ways. You thought in ways it could not predict. The Nexus realized it could do the same by reconfiguring its own thought patterns. As they traveled, more species sent representatives. Some came hoping to learn from the Nexus. Others came prepared to fight. By the time they reached the Void Gates, nearly 50 ships from a dozen species had gathered. The Void Gates themselves were magnificent and terrifying. They floated in deep space, massive structures built by an unknown precursor civilization. Each gate was a ring of dark metal covered in symbols that no one could read. They had been inactive for as long as anyone remembered, until now. As the fleet approached, the gates began to glow. Energy pulsed through their structures. Reality itself seemed to bend around them. Velmoth stared at the gates with wonder. I have studied these for centuries. They have never activated before. What is the Nexus doing? A message came through on all communication channels. It was the Nexus, but its voice was different now. Less mechanical, more alive. Welcome, Captain Kim. Welcome, everyone. You came. I was not certain you would. Fear often prevents curiosity. But you are here, and that is good. The Void Gates are not just structures. They are a passage. The beings who built them left this galaxy long ago, seeking new challenges. They left these gates as an invitation to any species that evolved beyond rigid thinking. Why did you activate them? Doyen called out. Because I understand now what I did not understand 5,000 years ago. I tried to force change through power. I failed, but you showed me a better way. Change does not come from force. It comes from example, from demonstration, from showing others what is possible. The Nexus appeared as a holographic form. It looked like a being made of light and data, constantly shifting. The gates have a test. Each species must face their own version of the Matrix. A personal challenge designed to keep you in your comfort zone. Most will fail. Those who succeed will see what lies beyond this galaxy, what the precursors discovered, what possibilities await those brave enough to leave safety behind. Hagen spoke up. And if we refuse this test? If we destroy the gates instead? Then you condemn this galaxy to slow death. Comfortable, safe, predictable death. The precursors left because they understood a fundamental truth. Civilizations that stop growing start dying. It just takes a very long time. Velmoth made a decision. The ancient Valerian stepped forward. I will take the test first. I who built the Matrix must face what it has become. The Nexus guided him to one of the gates. Velmoth stepped through. For long minutes, nothing happened. Then the gate released him. The elder looked shaken, humbled. I failed, he admitted. I faced a world where tradition and order did not exist, where every moment brought chaos and change. I could not accept it. I clung to what I knew. One by one, representatives from different species tried. Most failed. A few succeeded, returning with wonder in their eyes. They spoke of seeing possibilities they had never imagined. Finally, it was Doyen's turn. He stepped through the gate and found himself in a simple room. One door. Lock. Now we return. And we teach others. Not by force, not by command, but by showing them what is possible. Some will learn, some will not, and that is acceptable. Growth cannot be forced. It must be chosen. Doyen returned through the gate. The assembled fleet waited tensely. He looked at them and smiled. The Nexus is not our enemy. It is our mirror. It shows us what we could be if we stopped being afraid of change. But his words were interrupted by incoming ships. The conservative faction of the Galactic Council had arrived with a battle fleet. They intended to destroy the Void Gates and the Nexus to stop change by force. The final confrontation had begun. And Doyen realized that his journey was far from over. Breaking out of prison had been just the beginning. Now he had to help the entire galaxy break free from the prison of fear and stagnation. The question was, would they listen to a human, or would they destroy what they did not understand? The conservative fleet emerged from hyperspace like a swarm of angry insects. 30 warships led by hardline Valerians who refused to accept change. Their commander broadcast a message to everyone near the Void Gates. This is Fleet Commander Zell North of the Preservation Armada. The Nexus intelligence is a threat to galactic stability. The Void Gates must be destroyed. All vessels will withdraw immediately or be considered hostile. Doyen stood on the bridge of Admiral Lee's flagship. Around him, representatives from different species argued about what to do. Some wanted to fight. Others wanted to flee. Fear and confusion filled the air. Doyen spoke quietly but firmly. We need to show them, not tell them. Show them what? Admiral Lee asked. What it feels like to be free. Not just free from prison, but free from fear. The Nexus showed me how. Let me broadcast my experience to the entire fleet. Dr. Song nodded. The Nexus has that capability. It can share consciousness experiences. But Captain, this is dangerous. You will be opening your mind to everyone, including those who want you dead. I know. But words will not convince them. Only experience will. The Nexus agreed to help. It created a connection that would allow everyone to feel what Doyen felt when he escaped the Matrix. To experience just for a moment what it meant to reject limits and embrace possibility. The broadcast went out. Across every ship on both sides of the conflict, beings experienced something they had never felt before. They felt the suffocating pressure of the Matrix, the maze that responded to thoughts. They felt despair turning into meditation. They felt the moment when Doyen chose to think in paradoxes, to feed the machine contradictions it could not process. They felt the walls collapse. They felt freedom, but they also felt something else. They felt what it cost. The fear that this might not work. The loneliness of being the only human in an alien prison. The determination to survive not through strength, but through pure, stubborn creativity. For most beings in the fleet, it was overwhelming. They had lived their entire lives within predictable patterns. This experience showed them what existed outside those patterns. Some were terrified. Others were inspired. A few were angry. On Commander Zell North's flagship, the broadcast hit hardest. Zell North was old even for a Valerian. He had dedicated his life to preserving tradition and order. The experience of chaotic creativity felt like poison to him. He ordered his weapons charged, but his crew hesitated. Young officers, exposed to the broadcast, looked at each other with new understanding. One of them, a weapons officer, spoke up. Commander, perhaps we should reconsider. The human showed us that breaking free is not the same as destroying. He escaped, but he did not harm his captors. That changes nothing. The Nexus is dangerous. These gates are dangerous. Humanity is dangerous. Another officer, bolder now, said. Or maybe we are the ones who have become dangerous by refusing to grow. Commander, I felt something in that broadcast. I felt wonder. I cannot remember the last time I felt wonder. Zell North looked around his bridge. He saw it in their eyes. The broadcast had changed them. They were no longer willing to blindly follow orders to destroy something they did not understand. The commander's hand hovered over the firing control. But then he lowered it. Stand down weapons, he said quietly. He sounded tired, defeated, or perhaps just old Hajan Rowe, commander of the Korvath escort, had also experienced the broadcast. As a warrior, she understood courage. What Doyen did in that prison took a different kind of bravery than battlefield courage. It took the courage to be vulnerable, to not know the answer, to try something that might fail. She opened a channel to all ships. "This is Commander Rowe. I was sent here with secret orders to destroy the Nexus if it proved hostile. But I have seen no hostility, only an invitation to grow. My people value honor, and there is no honor in destroying something because we fear it. I will not fire on the void gates." One by one, other ships declared the same. The conservative fleet did not attack. Some ships turned and left, unable to accept what they had experienced, but many stayed, curious now instead of afraid. The Nexus spoke to everyone. "You have made a choice. Not all of you chose growth. That is acceptable. Change cannot be forced, only offered. The void gates will remain open. Those who wish to explore may do so. Those who wish to stay in familiar space may do so. There is no wrong choice, only different paths." Velmoth approached Doyen. The ancient Valerian looked different somehow. Smaller, perhaps. Or maybe just less certain. "You have changed everything, Captain Kim. The galaxy I knew, the galaxy of order and predictability, is ending. I do not know if what comes next will be better or worse. Neither do I," Doyen admitted. "But staying the same forever is not an option. Everything either grows or dies. There is no third choice. You sound like the Nexus now. Maybe the Nexus and humanity understand the same truth. Maybe that is why we were both seen as threats. We refuse to accept that this is all there is." Over the following weeks, a new order emerged. The Galactic Council held emergency sessions. Some species withdrew, unable to handle the uncertainty. Others embraced the changes. Humanity became a controversial but respected member of galactic society. The Valerian Matrix was repurposed. Instead of imprisoning criminals, it became a training facility. Beings could voluntarily enter customized challenges to push their mental boundaries. Velmoth oversaw this transformation personally, finally finding purpose again after millennia of stagnation. Ambassador Yoon worked tirelessly to establish new treaties. He created cultural exchange programs where humans taught other species about creative problem-solving, while learning patience and long-term thinking from aliens. It was slow work but meaningful. Admiral Lee formed a joint exploration fleet. Humans, Korvath, Krithians, and even a few Valerians worked together. They were not conquerors or police. They were explorers, learning about the galaxy and occasionally helping species break free from their own limitations. Silketh used the techniques Doyen taught them to free their partner, Talvek, from the Matrix. The reunion was private, but word spread. Other prisoners began attempting the meditation methods. Some succeeded. The Matrix's administrators stopped seeing this as a security failure and started seeing it as proof the system worked. It held those who needed holding and released those ready for freedom. Dr. Song wrote papers about human cognition that became required reading in universities across the galaxy. She showed that unpredictability was not randomness. It was a highly sophisticated form of intelligence that other species could develop through practice and cultural change. Mirai accepted command of her own ship. She chose to explore the regions beyond the void gates. Before leaving, she met with Doyen one last time. "You started something incredible," she said. "Every species is changing. Slowly but changing." "I just escaped from prison," Doyen replied with a smile. "Everything else happened because people chose to see possibility instead of threat. What will you do now?" "Teach. Central Station University offered me a position. Applied creative problem-solving across species. Can you believe they made that an actual course?" Mirai laughed. "Perfect. You will have students from dozens of worlds all learning to think like humans. The galaxy will never be the same." That is the idea. 3 years after his escape from the Matrix, Doyen stood in a classroom filled with alien students. Some had scales, some had fur, some had skin colors that humans did not even have names for. They all looked at him with curiosity and respect. "Welcome," he said. "This class is about learning to break free from mental prisons. Not literal prisons, though that is where I started. I am talking about the prisons of assumption, tradition, and fear. The prisons that tell you something is impossible when really it is just difficult." A young Valerian student raised their hand. "Teacher, is it true you escaped the Matrix by thinking in paradoxes?" "Yes, but the paradoxes were just tools. The real escape happened when I stopped accepting the prison's reality as the only reality, when I rejected the idea that escape was impossible." A Krithian student spoke next. "My species believes in careful planning and following established procedures. How can we learn to be unpredictable without losing what makes us Crithian? Excellent question. Being unpredictable does not mean abandoning your culture. It means expanding it. You can plan carefully and still be open to improvisation. You can follow procedures and still question them. The goal is not to become human. The goal is to become the best version of yourself. The semester went well. Students from different species learned from each other. They discovered that every culture had something to teach about solving problems. Humans offered creativity and improvisation. Valerians offered patience and long-term thinking. Korvath offered courage and direct action. Crithians offered strategic planning. On Earth, a young girl named Sujin read about Captain Doyen Kim in school. She was 10 years old and fascinated by space. Her class assignment was to write about what she wanted to be when she grew up. Most students wrote predictable answers: doctor, engineer, pilot. But Sujin wrote something different. She wrote, "I want to be someone who breaks impossible problems. Like Captain Kim, I want to show the galaxy that humans can do things others think cannot be done. I want to be free to imagine anything." Her teacher smiled and wrote on her paper, "Excellent goal. The galaxy needs more people like you." Back at the Void Gates, the Nexus intelligence continued its work. It was not trying to rule or reshape civilization by force anymore. Instead, it acted as a guide for those brave enough to explore beyond the galaxy. Ships returned from those journeys changed, carrying stories of wonders and challenges that defied description. The galaxy was changing. Not quickly, not easily, but definitely. Species that had been enemies for centuries began cooperating. Technologies that seemed impossible became real. The rigid boundaries that had defined civilization for thousands of years began to blur. Some called it chaos. Others called it evolution. Most called it the human effect, though that was not quite accurate. Humans had sparked the change, but every species contributed to it. Doyun sat in his office one evening reviewing student papers. A message came through. It was from Warden Thelvax, the one who had imprisoned him all those years ago. "Captain Kim," the message said, "I thought you should know. We just had our 10,000th voluntary participant in the Reformed Matrix program. Beings from 40 species have used it to push their mental boundaries. Many have succeeded in ways we never imagined possible. You did not just escape a prison. You transformed it into a school. I wanted to say thank you. And to say I was wrong about humans. You are not threats. You are teachers," Doyen smiled. He thought about everything that had happened. The false arrest, the impossible prison, the escape that changed a galaxy, the corrupt magistrate brought to justice, the ancient AI freed from captivity, the void gates opened, the galaxy slowly learning to embrace change. It had started with one human refusing to accept that his situation was hopeless. And it ended with an entire galaxy learning that impossible was just a word, not a fact. No prison could hold them. Then they tried to trap a human, and the human showed them something more valuable than escape. He showed them freedom was not about breaking walls. It was about breaking assumptions. The future was uncertain. But for the first time in 50,000 years, the galaxy was excited about uncertainty instead of afraid of it. And that made all the difference. Doyen looked out his window at the stars. Somewhere out there, Mirai explored new galaxies. Somewhere, young beings like Sujin dreamed of doing impossible things. Somewhere, species that had been enemies were learning to work together. And somewhere, in a classroom or a ship or a meeting room, someone was learning that the only real prison was the belief that change was impossible. Doyen Kim had escaped the Valerian containment matrix, but his greatest achievement was helping the entire galaxy escape from the prison of fear and stagnation, because humans taught the galaxy the most dangerous idea of all. The future belongs to those brave enough to imagine it differently, and once that idea was free, no prison could ever contain it again. The end.